and Chickasaw nations that were once here on this land today that we call Norman. And I want to remind you of the sacrifice and the pain and the genocide that our people endured for the city of Norman to exist and for the state of Oklahoma to continue to perpetuate its violent white supremacist acts against all people of color within this nation. And I'd like to remind you of some of Norman's history so that we may move from this point of view. That our water supply is built, Lake Thunderbird, is built on top of an absentee Shawnee burial ground where absentee Shawnee tribal members were relocated off of their lands, off of their original land, or through their lands after they already came here on a death march, after being stripped away of their culture through boarding schools and through intergenerational traumatic events, and how the city of Norman's water supply literally comes from a place where these people were dug up and their remains carelessly moved, their bodies exhumed. And we have a woman here today who is a descendant of that absentee Shawnee family who had to be relocated to be here. My absentee Shawnee Lakota relative over here, Ashley McCray.
Oh.
And I want to remind you
that I wasn't allowed to speak here today.
That she was not allowed to speak here today on behalf of herself and her own lands and the atrocities that her family had to endure. And I want to remind you that Abner Norman, the person that this city is named after, was the person who surveyed these lands, the person that literally removed the people who once belonged to here away. And I want to remind you that all of this happens within this land right here. Everything that we're coming together for today against white supremacy, against what we call fascism, isn't just occurring in the White House. It isn't brand new ever since Trump got elected. It has been the fabric of this nation since 1492. And every single one of us here benefits from the genocide of indigenous people that is ongoing today. And we see this through pipeline companies moving pipelines through people's lands and pushing them off, poisoning our ceremonial grounds, poisoning our water supplies, poisoning our ground and our sky and everything. This happens ongoing today. And it's not just Nazis in Charlottesville. It's not people that wear badges that say they're white supremacists. It's the people that are within our own communities. And the people that work for corporations are forced to be within this labor, this cycle of oppression that continues, the rape and extraction of our lands and our people. This is not a brand new situation. It's in the very fabric of the statehood of Oklahoma. In fact, Oklahoma itself prides itself on its history of white supremacy through land run reenactments, through Boomer Sooner, from the celebration of acts that remove indigenous peoples from their homelands. Oklahoma celebrates these facts. It is ingrained within the way that we teach our children history. If we don't teach them that Norman once was a sundown town, and we don't teach them where our water comes from, and we don't teach all of the sacrifices that our people had to go through, that stolen people from the continent of Africa had to go through to build where we stand right now. And in fact, within schools, still to this very day, there are indigenous children forced to reenact their own genocide through land run reenactments, and we celebrate these things in Oklahoma. Instead of criticizing ourselves and interrogating the white supremacy that we face subtly every day. It is not just incidents within Charlottesville that are more extreme that you can see, but it's the things that are right underneath your nose that we have failed to interrogate as people that benefit off of our genocide. And so I'm asking the people of Oklahoma today to really rethink our positions and what we think whenever we think about white supremacy, because it isn't just a one-faceted issue. And additionally, I'd like to point out that the state of Oklahoma rightfully shouldn't even exist if we were to honor the treaties that have been signed with our people for years. If the so-called United States of America followed its own laws, we would have our reservations and our people would be more intact, and we should and to interrogate this within not just yourselves, but your neighbors, your family, the people who are around you, because we participate in these things in much more subtle ways than what we could comprehend. And I was told here to say something positive. I was told to be motivational. I have nothing positive to say about the ongoing genocide of indigenous people, of the ongoing genocide and oppression of black people, of brown people, of undocumented immigrants, and every single person in this state that suffered at the hands of the colonial project of settler terrorism, of white supremacy, of all these things we call colonialism started in 1492. They did not start last week. They did not start with the last election, or the one before that, or the one before that. So think about this whenever Norman continues to boast its inclusive community slogan it has for itself. That it continued up until last year to celebrate our own genocide through the celebration of the 89er Day Parade, in which whenever Ashley and I went to go speak to these people, all we could be met was with absolute ignorance and racism. We faced this within the University of Oklahoma, of firing LGBTQ faculty of color over telling these same truths I'm speaking right now. We see this every day, not just last week, not just last year. And it's time for this community, if it's going to continue to call itself an inclusive community, to interrogate itself and to interrogate other people around you. And think about these systems that contribute to the cycles of oppression. Think about how there's white supremacist cops out there, and the people that are supposed to be helping us, they benefit from this system too. I have nothing positive to say, and I don't serve to be a motivational speaker when it comes to talking about these atrocities. Or make people comfortable. That isn't my job.
Can you tell us what we can do?
Listen.
What kind of action?
There's an action at the end of this rally that concerns the street named DeBar, after one of the people who are high-ranking in the KKK that Norman still has a street named after. It's about a mile away from here. And so if you really want to start contributing to this resistance against this colonial oppression, against this white supremacy, then we need you to act. We need your support. We need your resources. We need the skills that you can bring as human beings to help indigenous and black-led movements. That's what we need. So please join us at the end of this rally. We'll be lining up over there, and we're going to go to the bar, and we're going to hold a public protest and a statement against the ridiculousness of having a KKK member's street name still up. I want to say, Mado, thank you in my Muskogee Creek language for listening to me today. But I want you all to know that after this, you really owe this community some really hard work. You can't just show up to a rally and think that the enemy of white supremacy is somehow defeated. We have, each and every one of us has a responsibility to this land, to our future generations, and for the people who are going to come after us, who don't deserve to grow up and to have to live within this racist, colonial, oppressive society. We have a lot more work to do than just this rally. But